So, if Republicans take control of one or both houses of Congress, what will they do to stop Washington's perceived war on business? Joining us now for that, Michigan GOP Congressman Thaddeus McCotter. Good to see you, Congressman. Thanks for coming in. Appreciate it. Let's start with taxes. Big question. Of course, Congress left town without resolving the matter of the Bush tax cuts, whether to extend them. How can you extend them if you have a president in the White House who's likely to veto, even if you get both houses of Congress, who's likely to veto any bill to extend them?
Well, it's a very good point you bring up, because as you know, before we left for the election recess, you had a bipartisan majority of the House, Republicans and Democrats, that signed on to keeping the tax relief in place across the board, knowing that raising any taxes right now, especially on those who have the greatest capacity to invest and grow jobs, would be detrimental in this recession. So what's happened is it's a question of whether you can go to lame duck and get the broad center of the Congress together, despite the Democratic leadership and despite the president's ideological aversion to having across-the-board tax relief. So when we talk about what will happen next year, we know what's going to happen if nothing is done this year. You have the largest tax increase in history. It's going to be a complete anchor on any type of recovery that we're going to have. So the first thing we have to do is not look at what's going to happen in January. It's try to get something done before January.
Well, look, taxes and our taxpayer dollars went into the TARP, which in turn helped save much of the auto industry. Ford, for example, did not take TARP money. It did get a loan from the Energy Department, but looking at Ford today, they just announced that they will build new plants in Michigan, and they're going to hire another 1,200 U.S. jobs right there in your state. At some point, do you look at squaring off with the fact that some taxpayer money has gone to real good? Because had GM and Chrysler gone down, Ford would have had a tough time of surviving.
Yes, but it didn't have to be linked to the TARP, which I did support as a last resort. You could have gone with the low-energy interest loans. It was put on the companies by the auto mandate that came out of Congress for green energy. It was kind of an unfair situation because you could then borrow the money, repay it with interest. It would cover some of the mandate. We wanted to use that money to allow these companies to try to survive. But what you point out is right, and it's something the federal government has to understand. You understand this because you work in the communications industry. We have had a communication revolution. People can order goods and services in the palm of their hand. Individual empowerment is occurring on your laptop every day. What the government doesn't understand is that they're going to have to adjust and make difficult decisions the way families have done, the way the auto companies have done. Every industry and entrepreneur in America has had to adjust to a consumer-driven economy where big, broad, massive, centralized bureaucracies are no longer operative. And I think I've just described the federal government.
There is a perception, partly because of what you just described, that the government is anti-business, that they have become so involved in business activities that they're kind of gumming up the works, gumming it up with regard to taxes that we all know are coming up, certainly with regard to regulations that are already here. How does government, not just the Democrats, but also the Republicans, turn that perception around?
Well, I think what we have to do is you have to listen to the people that are trying to create the jobs, and especially the people who want the jobs. What we have are two fundamental different views. As you remember, the president said he believed that he could recreate the foundations of the American economy. That is not the job of the President of the United States. That is not the job of the Congress. It's the job of the workers and the entrepreneurs who've created over time the most prosperous and equitable economy in human history. What the government's job is to do is to try to create the conditions whereby talented individuals can express their talents in the marketplace and grow this economy through their own genius, not the genius of a bunch of bureaucrats sitting in Washington.
Take the ball and run with it. Thaddeus McCotter, Republican from the state of Michigan. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
We appreciate it.